If you live to see 2050, here's what's coming. Between now and 2050, we're going to see things that still sound like science fiction, and a few things we'd honestly rather not see at all. Either way, here's a rough map of the next few decades. Let's start with what's happening right now. In London, driverless robotaxis from Uber and the British company Wave are already going through final checks before launch. Assuming regulators sign off, this will be the first commercial autonomous taxi service in Europe, beating both Waymo and China's Baidu to the punch. Another major event this year has already happened: the World Cup in the US, Mexico, and Canada, the first ever with 48 national teams, ended with Spain beating Lionel Messi's Argentina in the final. Cristiano Ronaldo, meanwhile, played a record 6th World Cup of his career for Portugal, almost certainly the last one for both legends of the game. SpaceX, for its part, is still aiming to send its first uncrewed spacecraft to Mars this year, though the exact timeline remains uncertain, since the company has already pushed its crewed Mars flights back to 2029 or 2031. NASA's Artemis program, for what it's worth, just went through a major shakeup. The crew already flew around the moon aboard Artemis 2 earlier this year, but the actual surface landing is no longer planned for Artemis 3, which has been turned into a test mission in Earth orbit instead. The real landing, which will include a woman and a person of color for the first time, has been pushed to Artemis 4, tentatively set for 2028. Given how many times this program's timeline has already slipped, that date isn't exactly set in stone either. And on August 2nd, 2027, a total solar eclipse will sweep across Spain, North Africa, and the Middle East, lasting more than 6 minutes of total darkness. We won't see another eclipse that long until 2114. In 2028, the Olympics return to Los Angeles for the third time, tying the record held by Paris and London. That same year, Saudi Arabia hopes to finish Jeddah Tower near Mecca, the world's first building to top a full kilometer in height, with 165 floors and 59 elevators, dwarfing the 828-meter Burj Khalifa in Dubai. In 2029, the asteroid Apophis, 450 meters long, will pass within 32,000 kilometers of Earth, closer than many satellites, and will be visible to the naked eye across Africa, Asia, and Europe. That same year, polio is expected to be fully eradicated. Today, the disease survives only in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and wiping it out would make it only the second human disease ever eliminated through vaccination, after smallpox in 1980. That same year, the extremely large telescope in the Chilean desert will see first light. Its primary mirror, 39 meters across, will be the largest ever built, capable of gathering 100 million times more light than the human eye and up to 250 times more than Hubble. Its flagship mission will be hunting for Earth-like planets. 2030 turns out to be a year stacked with deadlines all at once. The UN's Sustainable Development Goals expire that year, an ambitious set of social, economic, and environmental targets, most of which will likely go unmet. It's also the key deadline for the Paris Agreement's emissions targets, which look increasingly out of reach at this point. Under Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 program, non-oil exports are supposed to reach 50% of GDP, double today's 25%. That same year could bring the first fault-tolerant quantum computers, capable of solving in a matter of hours problems that currently take years. Everything from modeling molecules to designing new batteries, with ripple effects across energy, logistics, chemistry, and finance. We might also see the first regulated xenotransplants, such as genetically modified pig kidneys, which are already being trialed in patients in the US. If those trials succeed, the procedure could be approved for specific cases as early as this year. And the World Cup will be held across 6 countries for the first time ever: Spain, Morocco, Portugal, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay, marking exactly a century since the very first World Cup in 1930. In 2032, the Olympics head to Brisbane, Australia's third time hosting after Sydney and Melbourne. That same year should see the opening of one of the most ambitious engineering projects on the planet, the Strait of Messina Bridge, connecting Sicily to mainland Italy by road and rail, set to become the longest suspension bridge in the world by more than 1,000 meters over its nearest rival. In 2033, the sky delivers a rare treat, an especially intense Leonid meteor shower, which peaks like this roughly once every 33 years. That same year, MasterCard will finally retire the magnetic stripe on its cards, a technology that will be more than 70 years old by then. Invented in the 1960s, it was the first system that let cards store digital information, paving the way for automated payments, the disappearance of paper checks, and the growth of global trade. Today, it's been almost entirely replaced by chips, contactless payments, and biometrics. In 2034, Saudi Arabia hosts the FIFA World Cup, an attempt to burnish the country's international image through sport as part of its broader national transformation strategy. That same year could bring the first transplants of lab-grown organs, built through bioprinting and tissue engineering. Still isolated cases at this stage, but ones that could mark the start of a new era in regenerative medicine. 2035 could turn out to be a turning point for energy as a whole. In France, the ITER experimental fusion reactor, the largest project of its kind ever built, plans to fire up its plasma for the first time. It won't generate electricity yet, but it's aiming for something fundamental, producing 10 times more energy than it takes to run. That would be the first real step toward a nearly limitless clean energy source with no long-lived radioactive waste. That same year, the EU, the UK, and Canada will stop selling new gasoline, diesel, and hybrid cars. From then on, only zero-emission vehicles will be available. In 2037, the world's population hits 9 billion. In 2038, some old computer systems will start failing because their internal clocks will stop counting correctly. At a certain point, they'll reset and think it's 1901. Most modern devices are already prepared for this, but there are exceptions. Certain satellites, industrial sensors, old utility meters, and banking software still running on outdated code that's either too expensive or too complicated to update. By 2040, we might see the arrival of so-called artificial general intelligence, a system capable of tackling new problems, reasoning, planning, and adapting roughly the way a competent human could across a wide range of fields, without needing to be reprogrammed for every new skill. This is easily the shakiest prediction on this entire list. Just a few years ago, before the GPT chatbot boom, most estimates pointed to 2060, and the current pace of progress has pushed some experts to move that estimate much closer, as early as 2028. Also, by 2040, we could see the first tunnel under the Strait of Gibraltar linking Spain and Morocco, a project that's been discussed for decades and is picking up momentum again, though even in the best case, it won't be operational before 2040. It's expected to cost between 15 and 30 billion euros and would connect Europe and Africa by an overland route running beneath the seabed. By that same point, we could see the first permanent mining operations on the Moon. Ice detection tests at the South Pole have already been carried out, and missions planned for this decade could pave the way toward extracting lunar resources. In 2047, the one country, two systems model that's governed Hong Kong since its return to China in 1997 officially expires. It was originally meant to last 50 years, though Chinese authorities have already signaled the arrangement could continue indefinitely. Macau's equivalent agreement expires in 2049, and starting in 2048, the 1961 Antarctic Treaty could come up for review. The agreement that protects the continent as a scientific reserve, guarantees freedom of research, and bans any military or commercial activity there. After that date, discussions about potentially exploiting the frozen continent economically could well resume. China's Great Green Wall, a massive reforestation program launched in 1978 to fight desertification across the country's north, is due to be completed by 2050. The project calls for planting billions of trees along a belt stretching more than 4,500 kilometers from the northeast all the way to the Gobi Desert. By that same date, the Amazon could be approaching a point of no return. Up to half its area could be degraded by a combination of drought, extreme heat, and deforestation, and some regions are already emitting more carbon dioxide than they absorb. If the trend continues, the damage could become irreversible, though there's still time to stop it. By 2050, we could also see the global elimination of malaria, a disease that still kills around 600,000 people a year, mostly in Africa. Vaccines are already being rolled out and promising new treatments are available, but getting there will depend on funding, political will, and access to healthcare in the hardest-hit regions. So what will the world actually look like in 2050? There's good news here too. The global population will sit at nearly 10 billion, and 70% of them will live in cities, up from 55% today. The UN's goal of universal internet access will be largely met as well, with an expected 90% of the world's population online, compared to about 70% today. Literacy will rise too, from roughly 87% today, especially low in rural areas and developing countries, to around 95%. Extreme poverty will shrink. Barring any major global shocks, the share of people living on less than $3 a day could fall from 10% today to just 2%. Right now, 1 in 4 people worldwide still lacks access to safe drinking water. But thanks to new infrastructure, better wastewater treatment, and more affordable technology, that figure could drop to 1 in 10 by 2050. Life expectancy will climb too, from about 73.6 years today to an average of 78. Infant mortality should fall as well. Today, roughly 27 infants die for every 1,000 born, but if the current trend holds, that number could drop by more than half. But it won't all be good news. Sea levels will rise by 25 to 30 centimeters. That might not sound dramatic, but it's enough to bring frequent flooding to coastal areas around the world. Cities like Miami and Mumbai are already building seawalls and retrofitting their infrastructure for the new reality. Others will have it much worse. For countries like Tuvalu, the Maldives, and the Marshall Islands, where the highest point of land doesn't exceed 5 meters, that rise becomes an existential threat. On top of that, the world is aging fast. Already today, 1 in 10 people on the planet is over 65, and by 2050, that will be 1 in 6. That shift will put serious strain on pension systems, healthcare, the labor market, and the way of life we currently take for granted. Who's going to support the system once there are more people drawing an income than people earning one? That said, if artificial intelligence and robotics keep advancing at their current pace, it's entirely possible that by 2050, work simply won't be a necessity for anyone at all. So what if, in the future, nobody has to work anymore?